I have been no contact with my narcissist mother for almost 5 years now. And the last time we spoke, I was confronting her about um, about something in my childhood. I was confronting her about why it was she sent me off to boarding school, this expensive boarding school for all 4 years of high school. But never once in all 4 years did she ever come out to visit me. And never in my life before had I thought to ask her that. And at this time I did. And she gave me, she fumbled for a moment because she didn't have an excuse prepared. And finally, all she could stammer out was, well, I couldn't afford it. I'm a single working mother. She's sending me to this ridiculously expensive prep school in Connecticut. My brother's going to private school. We have nice things in our lives. To suggest that she couldn't afford to come out once in 4 years, it's laughable. It was a dog ate my homework excuse, and just sort of further drove home how unimportant I was to her. That was the last time I spoke to her. And in the years since then, I have continued to learn more and more about myself. I've come to the realization that she is a narcissist, and I've come to understand about my childhood trauma. Um, I've come to understand why a lot of things that seemed normal at the time in my childhood, I've come to see were like really dysfunctional and really awful. And I joined a support group for other estranged adult children, and that was a big help also. And I don't speak to her because it hurts to speak to her. Nothing productive comes of it. And every time in the past that I had tried to discuss our relationship, and this was all my life, when I didn't really realize the mechanics at work. I just knew our relationship was bad and strained and we weren't close, and I would try to talk to her about our relationship. She always, the moment she realized that I wanted to talk about our relationship, she always shut it down immediately with her invalidation catchphrase, "Oh, for God's sakes, I'm not going to talk about that. Why do you always want to bring up the past and make all this trouble?" Usually I would want to talk about why she sent me away to high school, actually. And she would dismiss it by just saying, "Oh my gosh, why do you keep bringing that up?" And so I've felt like there's nothing productive to be gained, because a narcissist will never take responsibility, will never admit any wrongdoing, will never give a sincere apology. There'll always be some little word game, "Oh, sorry you felt that way," to dodge it. And I've been against the idea of reconciliation. I feel like it's not realistic, it's not achievable, and I feel like, honestly, promoting it in some ways does more harm than good, and that's how I have felt about it. But lately I've had another thought. Something else has sort of occurred to me, and up until now I thought, if I spoke to my mother right now, if suddenly I was speaking to her, and I thought about all the things I would ask her about my childhood. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Now I know the questions to ask. Put her on the spot about these pivotal moments in bad parenting. But I've thought more now. I understand that as much as my mother is the villain in my story, she's also the victim in her own. And I have no doubt at all that her childhood was at least as abusive as mine, knowing what I do about her father. I met my maternal grandfather only a few times. He died when I was fairly young, but he was a mean, authoritarian, joyless SOB. He was this toxic masculinity guy from the old school, and the few times I met him, I was afraid of him. There was nothing nice about that guy. And I think about my mother, 5-year-old mother, little girl mother, going up to her, "Papa, I hurt my knee or something," and thinking about this guy shutting her down and like, "Why are you bothering me with this? Suck it up, walk it off." I'm sure she grew up in fear of her father, and it's helped me to understand actually more things about my life. Like, I wonder, what did she see in my dad? There was no love really between them, and I realize now, from her point of view, how much she wanted to get away from her father, and that's helped me to, I think, understand more things. And I've thought about it now, and my thinking now is, if I was to speak with my mother, if for some reason in a moment of weakness, I'm going to call her up and talk to her. Whereas in the past, I feel like I would have put her on the spot for things that she did to me in my childhood, which would, by the way, result in just the same rejection from her. "Oh my God, talk about this," and the same narcissist rejection. I wonder how the conversation would go if I instead started asking her about her childhood and asking her questions about, her relationship with her father. And I still, I'm not ready to accept the idea of genuine reconciliation really being achievable. But my curiosity is there about What if I were able to not even talk about our relationship at all, not talk about her and me, but talk entirely about her and her father? And what if I were able to, you can't say to her, I can't say you were abused by your father. Your father's an abusive SOB. I mean, that'll just ping right off the armor. That's not going to go anywhere. She has to figure it out for herself. What if I could help my mother figure out that her childhood was abusive and see that it wasn't her fault, and she can stop blaming herself now for the things that her father put on her? Is that possible? And what if that worked? What if it happened? What if she had that epiphany like many of us have had that about their childhood? What if she had that moment? How would that affect her relationship with me? Just thoughts I'm having.